Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of the award-winning podcast, Big Hairy News.
I'd just like to say, to start off the show, that first of all, everybody that said that I wouldn't amount to anything, fucking suck it. Fuck you to my haters. And yeah, this was always a foregone conclusion.
And to Mrs. Smith in Standard 3, who told me I would never amount to anything. Well, fuck you, bitch. I'm glad you died of cancer. Hey, man.
How you doing?
Thanks so much for being involved in our scam of the New Zealand Podcasting Awards, our rigging of the New Zealand Podcasting Awards. We got a silver, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. And when you have a look at the awards and who won overall and who won kind of I think personally that the listener award is actually the best award because it's the one that's genuinely voted for by the public. But if you have a look at the full list of other winners, it's just full of stuff.co.nz, NZMe, iHeartRadio, and MediaWorks /Rover. So as I said to you all the way through, we're up against, thousands and millions of dollars worth of tech. So for us to be able to squeeze in there with anything was pretty bloody awesome. We really appreciate you guys being involved and genuinely thank you because it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see our little old name sitting in there. So I entered a few categories. We didn't get a sniff of the independent podcast. We didn't get a sniff of the current events. We didn't get a sniff of the best new podcast. I don't know why they had that because it was a strange cutoff date of July of 2022. So we did actually squeak in, but we got the listener choice silver. So, who can complain about that? Certainly not me. So thank you.
There's an unlisted.
Was that it? You were wiping away a tear? Were you wiping away a tear then? Is that what that was?
Yeah, the golden tier, mate. No, we did win golden category. They left it off the website, which is weird. Which is the no money award. See how long you can go with next to no money, and I think we're winning that one.
I thought you were going to say that the international award for being the number one podcast in Swaziland.
Number one in Swaziland, number one in our hearts, Pat. Very important.
Speaking of, now we will do some merch next week, right? But because we're coming up against Christmas, what I'm saying to you was the merch that you buy this week, and cutoff will be 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So if you're watching this podcast after the live stream or listening to it after the live stream, I'm talking about 9 a.m. December the 1st, 2023, because I'll get the stuff off to the printer. He'll get the stuff off to Cloak, and Cloak are the people who actually make the tops, and that means he'll have the shirts back on Monday, and he'll print them Monday, Tuesday, and I'll pick them up Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'll get them in the post Thursday. So I don't want anybody to be expecting stuff before Christmas and miss out on it, especially seeing we've got like a Christmas themed shirt this time round. They have yourself a very beardy Christmas. You obviously want to wear that on Christmas Day. So we will do some merch next week. And perhaps if you're going to order BHN merch, it won't matter to you so much if it doesn't get there before Christmas, but I would really like to have it all done before Christmas. So bhnshop.nz. We had a lot of people participate in the merch drive this week. We have had Chewy. When I put the order in tomorrow, I'll work out what percentage was number one in Swaziland, but there have been a few. So you'll be happy. There may have been more number one in Swaziland than have yourself a very beardy Christmas. There may have been, but we'll figure that out tomorrow. So just as a reminder, it is a competition. It's always a competition. For the last time before the guarantee before Christmas runs out, everyone always asks for mugs. We will do mugs. I've got someone who prints mugs in Dunedin, and I'll sort that out, just not for Christmas. We have got this run, the number one podcast in Swaziland, right? We've got that in hoodies, black and white, and t-shirts, black and white. We've got in red only, have yourself a very beardy Christmas. Red hoodie, red t-shirt. We have in tan and in purple, and that we've got representation there. These ones, for those with power, equality feels like oppression. We've got those in hoodies and those in t-shirts as well. And of course, the original Beardy BHN merch. Now, the original Beardy merch is not going to be sold past next week. So OB on the back of them means original Beardy, means you knew us when we first started selling merch, and it will never come back again after 2023 is up. So that's there as well. Now, and speaking of all of this, Chewy, as we always do on a Thursday, we're going to open up Discord tonight. I haven't done the links, haven't done any of that kind of stuff. I'll get them up so they're nice and fresh when ready to go. Anyone who gets on and talks to us tonight in Discord is in the draw to win a $50 voucher for the website. Now, that means you can either get a t-shirt of your choosing, or you can put it towards a hoodie. Hoodies are $90, so that means you'd pay $40 for a hoodie, which is less than cost. So that's up to you what you do with it. But everyone who talks to us tonight goes into the draw, talks to us on Discord, goes into the draw for a $50 voucher, however you want to spend it. Obviously, if it's just a hoodie, we'll just do it for you. And if it's if it's a t-shirt, we'll do it for you. If it's a hoodie, So that'll be coming up in the second half of the show. And so, yes, thank you very much for you guys who participated. That was a lot of fun seeing that. I got messages from all sorts of people in the podcasting world, and I forwarded none of them on to you, Chewy. I apologize about that. But that's kind of us. So we've got a couple of topics tonight. One of them sort of in two parts, because we're talking again about Winston Peters, and also about getting rid of te reo in government departments, and then also going to repeat a piece from Bomber's podcast, Moana versus Damien Grant, on the I've written it down. I've written PIJF, the Public Interest Journalism Fund.
Oh, yes.
You're talking about that. So
that's good. I've wondered what the conversation between an actual journalist and a convicted fraudster would sound like. So it's good that we're going to cover that off tonight.
You just automatically think it's going to feature Damien Grant. Why do you think that? It's a bit judgy.
Wow, it is a working group. So
fair enough.
There is that.
All right, guys. Anything else you want to say or get into, Chewy, or anything like that? Or
no, look, I made a big joke out of it, but look, it was pretty sweet news when I started getting alerts this afternoon about it, and I just want to acknowledge the amount of time and effort that Pat puts into this.
Oh, bless.
So yeah, we might poo-poo whether the entire thing.
So you said poo-poo. You said poo-poo.
As you see, we're adults and we do this, but it's nice that you guys went out of your way and voted for us, and it's cool to have us there. And hopefully, look, it's another tick in the box that gets people to acknowledge that what we're doing is valid.
Yeah,
so that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, and very much so. Like, honestly, I'm not trying to sound like a greaser or anything, but it's literally thanks to you guys that we got anything, because it's the listener's choice. You had to go and spend your time and put your email in, and so it is literally your reward. So thank you for giving us your award. We appreciate that. All right, hey, Matty McLean is leaving breakfast. Did you know that? He's kind of said he's moving. Yeah, he's leaving. I'm pretty sure he's going to radio now. As is often happens with profile people. Now, I don't want to say this in a kind of derogatory way, but, people kind of get themselves a backbone once they're moving on. That sounds really, really disparaging. I don't mean it to be, but it was very interesting to see Maddie this morning, basically, as far as I know, be the first media personality, the first interviewer. I might be wrong. There might be others out there, but you don't see me actually calling out Winston for lying and asking Christopher Bishop, why is he supporting a lie? So it was actually really good. It was really good. So I'm not disparaging, but you do sometimes think when people are leaving, it's like, I don't have to make friends anymore. Fuck it. Let's just do it. So either way, it was a pretty good interaction from Matty this morning. And one thing I'll point out to you, and I'll bring this back time and time again. Chewy, have you noticed that people from the National Party have stopped saying strong and stable? Notice that's gone. No, seriously, it's gone. I haven't heard strong and stable for a very, very, very long time. And
gone like the Ram Raids.
You certainly don't hear it from the Bish in this conversation. Let's jump into it.
What on earth is Winston Peters up to, Chris?
Well, Winston's Winston, mate, and I think there's going to be it's going to be an interesting 3 years. But the key point is we've got a coalition government ready to go. We've got 3 different parties. First time in MMP history, we've got 3 parties inside cabinet, and they've got different distinct personalities. The ACT Party's different to National, National's different to New Zealand First, and so on. And so they've got 3 different leaders, but they're
I would normally cut in here and go, what a load of bullshit. Why are you being so weak? But honestly, Matty does it.
all on the cabinet, and we're united as a team.
Although, Kieran, when the Deputy Prime Minister is accusing the media of taking bribes, when do you have to stop saying Winston's just being Winston?
Yeah, that's a weak response. Pretty poor, really, from Chris and Christopher Luxon. The fact of the matter is that the Deputy Prime Minister is telling you guys in the studio that you're corrupt, and he's telling the whole country that you're corrupt. And I don't think that's good enough. And the Prime Minister should pull him up on it. And yesterday, when he had the opportunity at Postcab, he said he can say whatever he likes. And Winston would have been rubbing his hands together because now he's got the longest leash he's ever had in 40 years in Parliament. And I think it's a shocker.
Chris, should the Prime Minister have been stronger? Does this set Winston up to do just whatever he wants for the next 3 years?
Well, Kieran was in a government, or at least a member of a government with Winston Peters. So, you know.
Yeah, and they learned, which is why they ruled him out very, 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 very early on.
Look, the reality is he was expressing the views that a lot of people think, actually, which is that the Public Interest Journalism Fund.
Talking point, a lot of people think. Mm-hmm. And this is where Matty actually does the one thing that every interviewer should have done so far.
Didn't work that well, actually.
But it's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie, Chris. And that is the job of you as the government to clear up, because otherwise it just plays into that perception and adds fuel to the fire.
Close your mouth, Bishop. Close your mouth.
Prime Minister just echoing the ramblings of some conspiratorial lunatics on Twitter.
A lot.
You see, yeah, like golf clap. Absolutely. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that. That should be the response by everybody. I know, like, I really don't want to sound disparaging, but I do wonder if he's, throwing caution to the wind because he's got no consequences from here on in. But anyway, we'll keep going.
I think so.
A lot of people think that the Public Interest Journalism Fund led to perceptions around the media.
So
that's the reality.
So clarify it, Chris.
Yeah, well, look, he's entitled to say what he thinks.
Do you believe it? Do you believe that the media were taking bribes?
Do I believe what? That the media were bribed? No,
yes.
but I believe the fund. No, I don't. But I believe the fund, the setup of the fund and the way it worked has led to allegations like that and perceptions. And a lot of people think that. And that's actually a problem for our democracy.
Part of being a politician is actually showing some leadership. And if you know something's a lie and you know someone should have said it, then come out and say, this isn't true and it shouldn't have been said. And the issue would be dealt with and we can move on. Instead, they're tiptoeing around Winston because he's already had the measure of them in negotiations and he's licking his lips. Well, it's true. You've got the ACT Party who wants to spend less and New Zealand First who want to spend more and the National Party who's given it to both of them. This has been a shocker of a start and Winston's only making it worse.
Oh, I reckon people are pretty confident about our program. We're going to get more done in the first 100 days than the last lot got done in 6 years. So I reckon.
It is pretty interesting to hear absolute talking points exactly the same as Christopher Luxon and Nicola and now the Bush. Like the same, lots of people. And look, Matty did really well. Like kudos due to Matty. But, the one thing he didn't do, which he could have gone even harder with, is when the Bush said, no, I don't think it's a bribe, to then go, well, why aren't you saying that as your first answer? Rather than saying Winston being Winston, why aren't you saying when it comes up, well, Winston's not telling the truth. Winston's lying. Yeah. Winston's not, I don't agree with Winston. I don't agree that that's the case. None of them are saying that until they get asked directly. They're all saying, Winston being Winston. Chewy?
I do want to say a couple of things here, and I know we're real proud of Matty for realizing what he can do here. He did leave an opportunity on the table there, and I want to point that out, that at no point in this interview did he say Bish, please.
Yeah, Bish, please.
It was there. I also want to point out Chris Bishop's absolutely genuine and human laugh. That was good. That was good. And I also want to point out how magnanimous he is about the idea of, actually, this is the first time that we've had 3 parties forming a government. Isn't that amazing?
Considering
Whereas
it was such a bad
the
idea.
idea
Yeah.
3 parties forming a government was going to be an absolute chaotic nightmare that we'd all regret, and the gates of hell would open, and we'd be boiling white people alive in the streets.
That must be it.
So
gates of hell have opened, and that's where Winston's come from. You've got it in one.
It's just real strange, that he's proud of it now. But yes, we're absolutely right at picking out the fact that these guys are reading from a choir sheet. This is
Yep.
the PR people have got some people together and go, okay, we need to hit this note that Winston can say what he likes, because Winston's always done this, and pointing out the fact that, well, you were in a government with Winston. The answer to that is yes, and he didn't pull any of this shit.
Yeah, true.
True. Nothing at this level. Nothing this unhinged.
Yeah.
He was a fucking foreign minister. And, I don't remember, I'm sure there is, because there's a lot of shit that Winston does, but I don't remember anything that fucking out of pocket out of Winston when he was part of the Labour government. I just don't see it.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I use that, and I haven't actually. This is one of probably going to come out over the weekend. I make clips every day, but I make more clips than I want to use. Like if I made 23 clips on Tuesday morning after Monday's show. Like I made 3 big long clips, I made 13 Twitter clips, and I made 4 clips for TikTok. So 13 clips is too much to put onto Twitter in one day. So I kind of put 4 or 5, and then I spread them through and there's one, then I spread some through the weekend that aren't quite so time specific. And I'm going to share the one over the weekend when I talked about my dad and starting to kind of lose a little bit of his, lose a bit of his marbles on the way. Because you could also make the argument that if Winston's mental capacity isn't quite what it was when they were in, that could be a reason as well. Maybe he's deteriorated, and that's I'm not actually taking the piss. Everyone does as they get older. Everyone does, and maybe his cognitive decline is not perhaps what it was when Labour was in. So it's another reason that he didn't do it. And as I said earlier, and Labour went, yeah, we were in government with him. We'll never do it again. And so National went, well, we will. Yeah, well, good luck. You asked for it. You got it.
They brought this on themselves. And look, in all honesty, I don't think, if they kept that door shut to Winston, I don't think we'd be looking at a different election result. I think it'd be National and Acton, no fucking crazy granddad.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that too. I think
it would have been close, but I still think that National would have won it. So all of the stuff that's coming from Winston, it's all down to Christopher Luxon being really bad at this. He was really bad at this to the point that he left the door open for Winston. He's really bad to this to the degree that he's just letting him run roughshod over the start of his government. And I'm sure that Winston fucking dog walked him during the negotiations.
Yep.
Because Christopher Luxon is bad at being a politician.
Yep, and I guess now to go the other way and give Winston kudos where kudos is due, Winston's very good at being a politician. If he's got one skill, it's that being a politician is right up there.
Not a particularly good human being or functional human being, but an excellent politician.
Let's have a look at some of the chats that have come in before we've got in. Peter, thank you for the super chat, $5 there. Appreciate that. I'm already fed up with how feckless the Nats are in respect of Winston. Kookie just gives a $2 captain late fee. And JK just saying we're going to go into that next 100-day plan. 100-day plan, undo all that nothing Labour did. Undo all that nothing Labour did. From JK, $5 super chat. Appreciate the super chats here, guys. I know you've started a few other chats there. Is anything else you want to get out before we go on to the 100-day plan?
I just want to point out that the amount of money that Kookie Nick gives us for being late, he could have bought a watch by now.
Flash one too. like with buttons and everything.
I'm going to re-highlight a comment that Gary made while we were watching that clip. Isn't it interesting how much real journalism is happening now that the election advertising money has disappeared?
Yeah.
It is. And I think, like, you know, everybody is going, hey, look, let's defend journalists and media outlets against accusations of bias. Absolutely. And that is fine and fair. And the other thought that you should hold in your head is that we should demand better performance from our media outlets, especially in an election year. Harder questions, tougher questions, more time spent.
I agree. And I mean, we did see it a little bit. You don't really see it in New Zealand about politicians not wanting to talk to some of the media, but certainly in America, they have that access issue because it's a commercial entity, the news. They need to have the big interviews. They need to have access. So sometimes the interviews aren't as hard as perhaps they could be. So, all right, let's have a look though. This is the 100-day plan. Oh no, it's not. Sorry, we're not doing the 100-day plan. What am I talking about? That's with. Oh no, we're not doing that at all. It is actually. Sorry, this is to do with the 100-day plan, but it's more specifically to do about the removal of te reo in government departments. That's this part of the conversation. But they talk about the 100-day plan in that as well. I just got to read my notes that I wrote this afternoon. So let's have a look at the next part of this conversation. It's just a couple of minutes, and this is all about the important things like making sure that English comes before Maori on road signs rather than Maori before English. You know, the important things in the culture war that National has started.
Yeah, I do want to talk about a couple of the things that you are going to get done. The removal of te reo from our government departments. Is that really the kind of stuff that people are caring about, Chris?
Well, that's not on the 100-day plan, but over time we will be transitioning government departments. So it's English first so that people can identify with their government departments and know what they are. I've seen quite a few.
But how Trumpian does that sound? This is the thing. America first, English first. You know what I mean? It's like, it's Trumpian. And but in fairness, I will show you very shortly how English first will actually make a world of difference to us. Just stick with me, baby birds. I'll feed you.
Few surveys around this, and people struggle with the te reo name. Not to say that you can't have the te reo name as part of the government department, but
isn't that generous? So you're allowed to have Maori as a part of the name. It just has to be subservient. Can we use that word, subservient, to the English name? That's good. Well done.
Let's call it the transport agency. That's what it is.
What do you think, Kieran?
Well, we've just had an election campaign where cost of living was the priority for most voters. And now we've seen a 100-day plan with a ragtag of weird priorities.
I do want to slap him and ask him to wake up before he starts talking, but it's just a style thing.
Priorities that don't really send a message to the country that the cost of living is going to be a priority for this government. At the end of the day, I haven't seen throughout my time as a minister or in Parliament or just someone who lives in Masterton, I haven't seen a document that's come from a government department that I haven't been able to read because, of course, they communicate in English. And even if you take Waka Kotahi, for example, immediately after that, it says New Zealand Transport Agency. Everyone has been able to navigate this, but this is a signal that they are prioritising, repealing back the priority of te reo, like getting it standing up to what it should be in this country is something we're proud of and promote, and sending little virtual signals to everybody. The same thing that these guys have been accusing us of doing for 6 years. It's a weird thing to prioritise first off the bat, I think.
It's not a priority straight off the bat. It's not part of our 100-day plan. It's part of our work program. But our focus, the first bill we're putting through the Parliament is to return the Reserve Bank to a single focus on price stability and getting inflation under control, for example.
Okay. So, virtue signalling, there's another word that gets bandied around by the right wingers, and that's woke. So this is the right-wing version of being what they call woke. Because I love Kieran, because he just sits here and goes, well, this is the tone. Well, what a bunch of bullshit. That's not going to do anything. And he's completely right. And he's 100% right. But what I want to do before we get into this, Chewy, is I did do a bit of research today, and I did actually figure out maybe National has a point. You ready for this? Let's do this. Because look, right? Waka Kotahi, New Zealand Transport Agency.
I saw the first two names, and now I'm shitting and crying.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
But look, bad, Hard to read, hard to follow, but of course, good. Easy to read, easy to understand, and you can see their point. Huh? Bad, good.
Shitting and pissing myself. Don't know. I've
Bad.
driven my car into a school. I mean, a coulda.
Good. People can't figure this one out. Easy to read and understand. This is literally
signage.
This is literally This is literally because they're talking about English first, and they're saying, but you know, Maori can still be there, so they want to change this to this. That's what they're talking about doing, and that's what they're talking about doing in their first fucking 100 days as one of the more important things to get onto, to change this to this. Bish, please.
Bish, please, indeed.
Look, so that was the appropriate time to use it.
Whenever this comes up, like, and I see there's a couple of people in the chat talking about the official language of the country. Like, English isn't an official language of the country. It's not. It's a dominant language, sure, but it's not an official language because it doesn't need the protection. Like, you go back 30, 40 years, and Māori was at the point that it potentially would die out. It's the only place in the world where it's spoken.
Yeah.
It is a big part of the cultural identity of this country. And I'm sorry, if we want to boil it down to brass tacks or whatever, I think I'm mixing my metaphors there. Second place does not get naming rights. Let's just make that the rule.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the country being called Aotearoa New Zealand. There's nothing wrong with us coming to you here from Otepoti, Dunedin. There's nothing wrong with it being called Waka Kotahi, the New Zealand Transport Agency, because people are adaptable. But National think the majority of people are idiots and can't learn.
No, I disagree with you. I disagree with you. They don't think that. They know that they're not. They're playing populist politics. They're pretending they know that they think that. They don't think that at all. And this is coming out more and more and more. You know, like Kieran said, these guys are being, you know, giving us shits about this for 6 years. Here's another one, right? And I put this up as a tweet today, and I'll put it out to you. You ready for this? This is the tweet. So let's just make something clear. A government telling parents that their children can't have cell phones at school is the quintessential example of what right wingers complain about when they cry nanny state, right? And for all those people who are backing National for cancelling the smoke-free legislation, citing freedom to choose, you better now also be up in arms about banning cell phones in schools as well. A parent's right to choose what their child uses at school and all that. Now, firstly, I actually don't have a problem with my kid not taking their cell phone to school. I quite like the idea. But the point I'm making is the hypocrisy that telling parents what they can and can't do to communicate with their children is the dictionary definition of nanny state. And these guys have been going on and on and on about virtue signal, wokeness, nanny state. This is what they've been complaining about, right? And now they're doing it. And they're doing virtue signaling for Waka Kotahi to New Zealand Transport Agency because, Chewy, they don't think that New Zealanders can't figure it out, but they have a section of their base that wants to rally against the Māori language, and without that base, they don't win. So they are literally virtue signaling to that base.
Yeah, absolutely. The cell phones in school thing, we spoke about that the first time that was fucking brought up. And it was like, this is literally not something that the government needs to even break their stride to deal with. The schools can do it. The schools can ban it. Individual teachers can do it. I don't want your cell phone, and it goes in the box. We're not having distractions. They don't need Chris Luxon to come in and say, no cell phones nationwide. It's just unnecessary. And it's like, again, as Kieran was saying, for a government that was saying the cost of living crisis is their biggest focus, is the biggest concern for New Zealanders everywhere, the squeezed middle, the low in income. Remember, it's all for you guys. None of this stuff in the 100 days, none of the stuff that they've talked about so far has any benefit to those people they were talking to. If you heard that, believed it, and voted for National, they have played you for a sucker, and you should be furious.
Yep.
You should be absolutely furious. If you're one of those people that says, I've never, I don't believe politicians, I don't believe in what LIBOR has been telling us for 6 years, and you fell for this, the most obvious of lies, the most clearly pointed out links to multiple ministers with multiple conflicts of interest that are clear as day to see, and went, yep, I'm all right with these guys. You've done this to yourself. And it's a crime of the universe that it's not just you that'll suffer the consequences of this. It's all of us.
Well, the other thing, just speaking of all of us, the other thing that, sorry, my shoe's just falling apart, so I'm going to fix it while I'm talking to you. The other thing that's that I realized as you were talking is there's a lot of this conservative world that always talks about, what am I going to leave for my children? What am I leaving for my children? The future, my children. This government being in for 6 or 9 years, if that's what they get, 3 or 6 or 9 years, changing the education system will harm your kids and grandkids. Like what they could do to the economy will harm future generations. And it really does seem to be people who kind of cut off their nose to spite their face of doing it's about the me, not we thing. They say my grandkids, my children, the future generations, but it's just a me thing. And there's a part of me which is going to I'm almost looking forward to the next 3 years. I'm not, because it's not going to be good for vulnerable people. It's just not. And it's not going to be good for the future of the economy, and it's not going to be good for the future of education. But there's a little part of me, a little perhaps vindictive part of me, that just wants to. I can't wait for the remorse, like the Brexiters had, the remorse to kick in, and for people to realize, well, hang on, my life's actually a bit worse. I mean, they've got no cell phones in schools, and I now get to go to the New Zealand Transport Agency, but I'm actually worse off. And my child or my grandchild, who's now working a minimum wage job because they're a student, hasn't had a pay increase in 4 years, and they're really struggling. And oh shit, what have I done about this? Is this partly my fault? I'll never do that because they're not introspective. But thinking about your kids and your grandkids, you 60-year-olds plus, me as well, 50-year-olds, 45-year-olds plus, your kids and your grandkids, they're the ones who are going to be working those minimum wage jobs, either to start a career or to get through university, who are now going to be worse off because of the legislation that this national government's going to bring in. So if you are thinking of your kids and your grandkids, then you're a stupid cunt.
Yeah.
Because it's screwed them.
They're already starting to backpedal on the tax cuts.
Yeah,
they're already starting to lay the groundwork for the fact that they're not going to be what they said they were, and it's not going to happen at the time that they said they are. But remember, they are rushing with unseemly haste to make sure that landlords can get their backdated interest deductibility. If that's not the biggest fucking signal about what they think of you, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yep, no, I'm with you. All right, let's have a look what's in the super chats. Kia ora, Spides. Good to see you. Thank you. We asked Spider to send out some messages to her followers to help us with that old silver. So if you got onto that, Spides, then part of this belongs to you as well. So thank you. I missed the beginning. Congrats on the silver, fellas. Very good. From Spider Hoof, $10. Appreciate the super chat there. Rachel says Tino Pai Timahi Silver, $2 super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Rachel. We appreciate that. Darcy Lee says, I mostly agree with Kieran, except it's not virtue signaling, it's vice signaling. Oh, that's nice. I got that. I saw what you did. I see what you did there. Kooky Nick with a $5 super chat. It is fairly stupid that our National Museum Te Papa could potentially be renamed. It's been called that from the day it opened. Now, Luxon ran away from that. That was asked of him by a journalist, and he ran away from it. But what they've said is basically organizations that primarily look after Māori can keep Māori names, and Te Papa is not one of those. It doesn't primarily look after Māori. So absolutely, Te Papa means, so that could be called Our Place next year. If someone, I guess if Winston puts up enough of a fuss, anything could happen. Charlotte says, I think they also need to take into account those tamariki in whānau who have FV in place where they need to contact their child at any moment. What's FV? Sorry,
family violence.
Family violence. Gotcha. Family violence. Yep. I mean, that's all true. Here's the other thing. Yeah. Look, there's lots of ways that schools can. Like I said, I've only got one kid at school now, 14. So in the second year of secondary school next year. And I think phones are a huge distraction. I get it. I really do get it. But I just want to come back to, it's not my opinion. I don't have a problem with the actual policy in general, but it's like, you can't be the party of freedom. You can't be the party of no nanny state. You can't be the party of no virtual signaling and then take away freedoms, apply a nanny state and virtue signal. You can't. You can't be a supporter of that party who is celebrating the right to choose to smoke and then support them in the same way for the right to suspend the rights of parents for their kids to have cell phones. You can't have it both ways. So what I'm trying to do is say you can't have it both ways. It's not even about what I think about the policy, which I don't care, but it's about those guys who are picking and choosing when to support and when to not support something which might have exactly the same outcome or the exactly the same foundation to it. That's what I'm about.
And I mean,
sorry,
I mentioned this the other day. This is exactly what Luxon is having real problems with. Is that a lot of these policies he's gone, we want to repeal some of the smoke-free legislation, but I want the downward trend in smoking to continue.
Yeah.
We are definitely committed to our climate change goals, but I'm going to open up oil and gas exploration again. It's this, he thinks he can have both of these things, both of these positives, with no downside, and he's done it on 3 or 4 different topics. I think he wants the EV adoption to keep going, but there's no clean car discount, and we're not having any funding going into charges now.
Yeah,
100%. It makes no sense. Like it's almost childlike in his level of thought into these. And like we said, the government departments having Māori names or English names first. Te Papa is such an obvious example.
Yeah.
And they haven't considered it. They don't have an answer for it.
Yep. I guess they're also going to start talking about Aotearoa New Zealand. Got to call it New Zealand first. Or what about the national anthem? We typically sing the Māori verse first. And that'll be up for grabs as well. Hey, let me just say,
I remember when that was the worst fucking thing in the world. People were rioting.
We're going to go to Discord shortly, and I put the link's changed. I don't know why it's changed, but it's changed. So I'll just put the fresh link into the chat. You can come and join us. I'm just showing you it right here. You join into Discord and you come along down here and you jump into the waiting room. We're going to go and have a look at Moana versus whatever his name is. I wanted to say Dexter for some reason. And we're going to do that next. But when we come back from that, we'll go to the lines, and then that'll be the end of the show, right? We'll just go through and we'll have a chat. So there's the waiting room. If you can see me looking at it, go jump in the waiting room. There's already like 4 people over there. And you get a chance to win yourself a $50 voucher that can be applied to the BHN shop. That's either a t-shirt or you can apply it to a Damien Grant. Thanks. Why did I think Dexter? Apply it to a hoodie as well. So let's go.
Kermit.
Hey ho, Kermit the Frog here. That's my one skill in life, my one party trick. Let's go and have a look. Moana Maniapoto versus Damien Grant on the PIJF, the Public Interest Journalism Fund. Jack Tame, who was on the left there, also chimes in about it, but depending on how long it takes for us to get through this first it's about 4.5 minutes of conversation. We'll see if we play his comment or not. But that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the fund, which obviously, Māori television and stuff, it's kind of what the fund is for getting voices out there that aren't heard as often as possible. So obviously Moana has some thoughts around this. So let's join the conversation.
Damien Winston lashed out at the media again in the first cabinet meeting, yelling, "Before you go, can you possibly tell the public what you had to sign up to get the money? It's called transparency." How will Seymour and Luxon work with that?
Well, he has a point. When organizations took the Public Interest Journalism Fund, there were obligations to uphold various treaty obligations, and I think, I'm no fan of Winston, but on that point, I think he's right. I don't think there should have been a public journalist interest fund But if there was, it shouldn't have come with political strings attached. And this is the problem with state-funded media. And I've been, and they're, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Be careful what I say. But those people.
Don't you just want to know what he was going to say then? I desperately know what he was going to say then. I just want to know.
People inside some of the large private organizations that have taken this money, there is a concern. They don't believe that their independence has been compromised, but they understand and they are
because finish that thought. It hasn't.
Concerned that there is a perception that their independence has been compromised.
Where did that perception come from? I wonder?
Great
Because
question.
you see a whole, well, for one thing, you see a whole bunch of reporting on
Devastating.
treaty Maori co-governance related issues, and at the bottom it says this was paid for by the Public Journalist Interest Fund. And I'm sitting there and I'm reading and I'm thinking, well, this looks like a lot of woke nonsense that I don't approve of, but fine, whatever. It's published by a private organization, and then I see it's paid for by the Public Journalist Interest Fund. There is a requirement that they would take on people of a certain ethnic background to do.
And do you know why?
Do I know why?
Do you know why there was a requirement that they take on people of a certain ethnic background?
I don't know.
Because there was a paucity of people with certain ethnic backgrounds in certain platforms. So it was to encourage a more inclusive commentary across those platforms. Otherwise, you just get the same old, same old.
But that's not the role of the state when it comes to the media.
So you don't think the role of the state would be to encourage a more diverse commentary from different communities? What do you just like it to embed the status quo, which is usually white men of a certain kind of, class?
No, I'm not going to sit there and look at the media and say, "Oh, there are not enough South Koreans currently in our media."
Oh, how do we get from Koreans? They're going to go to roads as well.
We need a government agency to increase the quota of South Koreans.
He has to say South Koreans because he can't say brown people because it wouldn't go down very well. So he has to pick a group that doesn't quite raise up the heckles of the racist card. Perhaps.
Can I just point out that the fund also mentions Asian communities as well?
Yep. And also
Māori, Pacific Island and Asian communities specifically mentioned in the criteria for applying for that fund.
And the other thing is New Zealand on Air has come out very clearly saying there was not a single declined proposal that had anything to do with treaty issues. No one was declined over treaty issues within the thing. They've already stated that. So that means all these fucktards who are going on about that's the appearance, it's the perception, it's the appearance. Well, this is your point to say you're either saying New Zealand Air is lying now and all the broadcasters are lying, or you have to put your case forward, and there isn't one. So you either say they're lying, or it's actually it might have the appearance of that, but it's not the case. It might have the appearance of this, but it's not the case.
Mismatch.
What about Māori? What about Māori? Given the treaty, what about Māori?
The government should not be in the business of saying, what, Māori is 17% of the population.
It's not a numbers thing. It's not a numbers thing.
But it absolutely is a numbers thing.
No, it isn't a numbers thing.
Because what is the metrics by which the state looks at a private media landscape and says, you guys don't have enough people who whakapapa to Maori or Pacific Islander? That is not the role of the state.
That is a very clumsy analysis.
That is
very clumsy.
But the state shouldn't be doing it at all.
If not the state, then who? The state is the crown.
Nobody should be doing that. The job of the fourth estate is to hold, part of the job of the fourth estate is to hold the crown, the state, those in power.
And why would you not think that even a Māori or Pākehā on a particular platform would not say to the state, hey, you're in breach of the treaty. You're doing the wrong thing here, and we're going to hold you to account.
So basically, for Damien's point to be valid, he first has to negate and get rid of the treaty because there is an agreement. And the other thing is, if we didn't have intervention from government groups, government, non-NGOs, people who are willing to put minority voices in front of us, then they'd never be put in front of us at all, ever, because sometimes they don't make the commercial return that they should. And what a business does, a business's primary objective is to return a dividend to the shareholder or the owner, to make profit. So you're not going to get private businesses going, oh, here's an important voice to 4% of the population. We better put that out there. It's never going to happen, which is exactly what happens when you see middle class white men hosting, looking after, reporting everything, until you get a group that comes along where profits aren't the reason that they're trying to get that voice heard. They're trying to get that voice heard because it deserves to be heard, and it's a representative of a portion of the community that deserve to see that face or hear that voice in their media echo chamber, Chewy.
Yeah. What I like about any time Damien, sorry, I misspoke. I gave him his wrong name. Convicted fraudster Damien Grant is the way that he thinks about this is like he might call himself a classical libertarian. I like to call him a teenager that's just discovered libertarianism. And he's the sort of person that go, oh, well, socialism has never worked in the real world. Neither's fucking libertarianism, you idiot. And it's purely because whatever example he's using has to have all of this, like it has to happen in a vacuum, right? Government has no role into saying what the media can or can't do. Completely, as you said, negating the treaty, negating anything else that comes right. There's a starting point where Damien Grant reckons that the government shouldn't tell the media what to do, but the media should still somehow be able to hold the government to account. It completely ignores race, history, any sort of demographic at all. Where this, I would love to say beige society, but I'd say in Damien's world, it's more of an off-white, maybe an eggshell society. It doesn't work. It's not grounded in reality. And he doesn't know what he's talking about. And he's going back to that talking point that he's seen the actual politicians that have got together and discussed what talking points they had, and talking about the perception of bias. I don't care if there's a perception of bias. It's fucking wrong. It's based on lies and a lack of knowledge. So that's it. It doesn't matter what your position is. You are wrong. I love that Moana can just say 3 or 4 words that require convicted
and he starts to stumble.
Grant to have to respond in paragraphs and have to bring up this absolute construction of what society should be. He has to bring in South Korea because he knows if he mentions any other demographic a little bit closer to home, he'll sound like he should be having a sheet over his head.
I think that what I've just realized is that this is the example, the quintessential example of who Damien is. For those with power, equality feels like oppression. That we should send one to Damien, because what he's basically saying is, because what I was thinking in my head was, imagine in some metaverse, some sideways parallel universe where brown faces or women were the majority and when we're in power, the Damien Grant you hear today would not be saying that then. If he was in the minority, he would not be saying, libertarian, market decides. He'd be like, well, my voice is important. Why isn't my voice being heard? Well, it's not being heard because you need to speak up. What did I put up before? Brendan saying it sounds like he's talking shit through a kazoo. All right. So let's get to
about that T-shirt as well. I just want to cover off why that phrase is so important, right?
Yeah.
Every time someone goes, it's too hard, it's too difficult. I don't know what wakakatahi means. I don't know why there's a macron over an A anymore. And how are tourists going to know what a kura is? That's what we're talking about. When 98% of government communications will be in English, because of course they will, and you get all hit up over a brief preamble or a ngā mihi at the end of an email, and that's a concern to you to the point where you bring it up constantly with your elected officials, or as an important issue to you during an election, you are the person that is worried about your supremacy being slightly adjusted. You don't want to be on the flip side because you think if that other group gets supremacy, that they will treat you the same as we have been treating them for 150 years. So have a good look at that.
And if you're wondering, those T-shirts are available for about another 12 hours at bhnshop.nz.
Smooth.
sat there and I've watched the Minister of Broadcasting chastise a broad.
You're talking about another joke.
It is.
Oh my goodness!
Now that was not. I don't believe that was a serious. But I saw it. And in answer to your question, Moana, the problem is. So why do I not think that's right? I don't think it's right because if I am indirectly getting my money from a state organisation, it's hard for the observers to believe that that's objective.
There you go. And that's all we'll show of that tonight. There was more, actually. Jack Tame shared a bit, but I think that's all we'll do for tonight. Chewy has left for some reason. I think he's about to come back. I can see him in the waiting room. You going to come back, Chewy?
Jump back in. That's a very inconvenient button I've got on my mouse, which just immediately ejects me from the show. I didn't know that it did that.
All right. What button was it? I should know. I should figure that out. I feel like we've covered off that conversation. Is there anything else you want to mention?
Love this comment.
Classic libertarianism.
I see what you mean. Libertarianism. Classical libertarianism is where I don't go to prison for fraud. But yeah, I think just generally, if we're talking about media and that sort of thing, I think if you look around at countries that do not have a public interest broadcaster or do not have a well-funded public interest broadcaster, or maybe you did and you're just really whacking away at the foundations like the BBC is experiencing, that sort of thing. In a country as small as New Zealand, we need publicly funded broadcaster because we're not a commercially viable space.
No, completely.
For the level of news that we need about our leaders and the issues that affect this country, there's no commercial money in it. And that's what they haven't worked out or acknowledged, that the reason that this fund propped up is because the advertising dollars evaporated during COVID, and we were going to lose all of our, the local newspapers, the guys that do the court reporting, the guys that keep an eye on the local council, all gone.
Yep.
All gone. Can't afford them.
Yep. 100%. Anakihi has just sent through a $2 super chat. Thank you, Anakihi. It's easier to understand today than anything he says. So I think that was a fair point. There's a couple other super chats, but they don't specifically relate to that last conversation, so we might leave them till the end of the show, except for Nick. Apparently, John 00, quiet in the cheap seats. Other people are telling John to go to the Discord to have a chat with us. I haven't seen the chat, so I don't know what's going on, but all good. If you guys want to come and chat, we'll welcome, differing voices. We're always polite to one another. That's the only thing that we request. Now, if you are on Discord, and I've sent the link out a couple of times, you need to come down to the waiting room, which is right here if you're watching. Jump into the waiting room. I will drag you across. When I drag you across, and I don't know who was first and who was second, so I'm just going to randomly do it. When I drag you across, make sure your mic's on, and you will be live, and hopefully it'll work. It'd be a bummer tonight if it didn't work, after all this sort of build up. And that is, we'll be having a chat, and it's already sort of 10 to 10, a bit after that. So 3 to 5 minutes with each person. We'll have a bit of a quick chat, make a point, make a comment, and we'll move on. We won't cut you short, but just to let you all know, we can't do big 15-minute conversations tonight. So let's bring Lost across. Lost Soul is in the chat with us. Can you hear us, sir?
I sure can.
There we go.
A second.
We got you loud and clear.
How you doing, bud?
Oh, pretty good. How you guys doing?
Yeah, man, we're good. What's up?
It's nice to hear a bunch of you guys talking about the same points that I've been dealing with recently. I want to touch on this whole part where everyone was talking about how stuff wasn't going to be divisive.
Yep. That's David Seymour.
I've been dealing with some major division in my life over specifically the treaty policies.
Yep.
I now live with a full-blown ACT supporter.
Woohoo!
Oh dear.
Yeah. So today, the other day, we got into a big fight with my mum because she's been a lifelong Labour supporter, and I have been questioning her about why she changed to a different party. I'm like, why have you voted the way you have? Comes down to the treaty, and we got into a big fight, and she said some really hurtful bullshit over it, and I was like, oh, cool, well, that sucks. So today, I took another stance, and I'm like, I specifically took this off the media. I want to know what about the treaty you don't like.
Yeah, good boy.
You know what? She couldn't answer. Yeah, specifics. Yeah, instead of trying to argue like, oh, I think this, you think that, look, there's this, there's that. I have dispelled a lot of disinformation that she has been spouting, like the Littlewood Treaty. She had it in her head that that's a secret document hidden away in Te Papa where no one can read it because it proves that the white man has superiority over the Māori. And I'm like, no, look, I found it right here. It's right here. So I've been dealing with some crazy next level cooker stuff, and I asked for specifics. There are no specifics. It's outdated, and I said it's a living document. It's never outdated.
Yep.
You know, it applies to all situations. Like, in case, what if we do a bunch of fucked up shit to the Māori again? Like, that's what it's there for. They can make another claim against the government. Like, I think they should over the smoke-free stuff. Like, well, you're going against our best interests as a people.
Yep. Yeah, Debbie Naruapaka started to make some noises about that. She's using pretty extreme terminology. I don't know if I agree with the terminology she's using. She used the word genocide, but you know,
maybe not that far.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see what comes from that. You know, often in the politics, and I know this of the Greens because I've had a bit to do with a couple of MPs. They always pitch for a like 40% more than they try and get. So they reach for the stars to try. So maybe that's what they're doing, or maybe that's just how she truly feels, and we'll see what comes of it.
It's probably how she truly feels by the sounds of it. Because if I came from a people that had a really high smoking rate and everything, the whole country was moving in a nice way to get away from that, I would be pissed off that a very small percentage. Now, this is what has got me, and what I keep trying to point out to her is that she's like, my opinion matters. I say, no, it fucking doesn't. Sorry, but you are a very small percentage of the total, and of the people that didn't vote as well. I think your opinion is wrong and stupid.
Look, I think you've done exactly the right thing, Lost. We're going to leave it there to give some other people a crack. But the thing about concrete, use the term concrete, give me some concrete things or specifics. Give me the specifics. I did that today with one of those messages that I read out earlier, and I was talking about whatever it was, and people started, it was the thing to do with Brooke Van Velden when I said that they're going to cancel co-governance. And my question was just, where is co-governance happening at the moment? And everyone started to talk about undemocratic this and racist that. And I'm like, no, specifics, please. And no one could do it, obviously, because there aren't any that need changing. Like, they could have said Three Waters, but that was chucked out 6 months ago. There was no co-governance going in there. All right, let's just keep going, shall we? What about, I think it's Annalise. Annalise, if you turn your mic on, have I pronounced that correctly? Annalise? 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Your mic's off, Annalise, if you're trying to talk to us. 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, I just saw it pop on. Yep, there you are. I just saw it pop on. I was just about to move you out, and I just saw it pop on, Annalise. We're with you.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Hi.
Yeah, it's you. You're on.
We got you.
Oh, kia ora. I just want to talk about Winston dog whistling.
Yeah, please go.
All right. So I just want to talk about. Yeah.
We're you might be hearing a bit of a delay, but we're just waiting. You can go. You can talk. We're listening now.
Shall I just mute the YouTube?
Not sure, but you just talk. We can hear you. What do you reckon, Joey? Okay, go.
Yeah.
I'm just going to plug you in.
Well, do you want to? Yeah, I'll give you another second. Maybe I'll put you back and come back to you. But are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. We can hear you fine.
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, great. Okay, so I just want to talk about Winston dog whistling the right wing, and this whole narrative that you guys did beautifully the other night about how it doesn't matter if it's true, it's how it's perceived. But what people aren't talking about is the fact that it's perceived as dodgy is because the Taxpayers Union did a really prolonged, aggressive campaign about everything that got funded. I mean, David Farrier, remember, they did that absolute hit on him about his film. And that was all from this Creative New Zealand funding. So all of that money that's going into promoting the arts, promoting our stories, promoting people's creativity, promoting stories that talk about weird things or imbalances of power are things they attack. And so basically the local journalism fund, as Chewy was saying before, a lot of that went out to the regions, to those small reporters to cover those, the community board meetings and council meetings and keep the public civically informed about stuff. So really the Fourth Estate, the attacks on the media by Winston, some of that reporting in those regions was about dodgy candidates that are ones that maybe ended up in his party running.
Yep.
Like we're starting to get this real web of manipulation going on of, between our public and politics that's echoing the right wing in the States. I mean, this is the whole thing of the Trump fake news, attacking the reporters. It got really bad. There was a shooting. You remember that?
Yep.
And I'm seeing the same things happen here. I mean, someone somewhere else has mentioned co-governance is just an echo of CRT. It's exactly the same playbook. They're heading exactly the same way. When you're seeing these narratives, and you guys have got to release that clip as a short that can get, high circulation of those people all doing that same narrative, like absolutely verbatim, the real Stepford PR spin, and the Taxpayers Union planted that narrative, and they're saying people are saying, but people are only saying it because the Taxpayers Union put it in, who knows, $5,000, $10,000 worth of ads. I mean, they had $400,000 worth of ads on YouTube. ACT Party did from donors. We're just getting, it's, this whole Atlas Network thing, they've refined this blueprint for how they destabilise left-wing governments and take over and start to implement the stuff like we're seeing with the Tories, So I guess basically what I want to say with my little rant, and thank you very much for giving me this little bit of space, is we need to organise, we need to connect with, local groups that are doing it on the ground, that are starting to move towards, becoming more resilient from the mainstream economy and supply chains, that are active politically, circulating petitions, willing to be boots on the ground, creating content, negating misinformation over and over and over and over again. We've just got to really do it, because this is it, this is the real deal, and we're seeing it globally. So
all right,
thank you very much for this little space.
No dramas, and thanks for calling in. I'm still not quite sure what to call that, but thanks for jumping on tonight and having a bit of a chat with us. I don't think we've spoken to Daily B before, so let's grab Daily B. Hey there, you need to turn your mic on, Daily B, and then we will be chatting. There's a bit of a delay to get through, Chewy. There we go. I think Daily B just left. Maybe a bit nervous.
And I think there's a few people that have mentioned as well, if you're going to be on the call, what's throwing people off is the delay between us speaking and it appearing on YouTube. So once we drag you in, kill your YouTube sound, and it'll work a lot better for you.
Yeah, so just even just mute it, mute the YouTube. Aiden's in there. We'll have a quick on with Aiden. Aiden, good evening, sir.
Good evening, lads. Congratulations on the podcast awards.
Thanks, mate.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Now I'm to be honest, I'm feeling a bit hopeless and disheartened about everything going on. I'm not really one to, get out on the streets and do that, and I shouldn't have to be. Like, I just don't know what I can do. I'm feeling more and more like I need to do something, but what is that thing, Like, yeah.
It's always a really hard question, like what's the best way to activate what you can do to help in whatever the situation is. I always think, community, always community. And Aidan, you've got community here, and not just because it's us and it's our product, but if people don't feel like they've got the voice or the ability to get out or whatever, you can always find people that and respect their opinions of, etc., etc. Whether it's our stuff, being humble, whether it's Bomber, whether it's the writings of Simon Wilson, and you can use that and share it around to also, we have a literal microphone and a literal platform to sometimes speak the words that others want to hear, but don't have maybe the capacity or the energy or desire to go out and do themselves. So, I mean, community always works, and grab onto it and be a part of it and amplify it.
Yeah, I would echo that.
Sorry.
Yep.
I just sorry, Chewy. I think what you guys are doing here, it's amazing, it's needed, but you guys seem to be the only ones bringing it up and criticizing it as hard as it needs to be. There comes a point where talking can only do so much. I also feel National one of the harder governments, and they're not actually going to give it as much of a shit as previous governments, because they've already shown us they don't give a shit about people.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that for people who are in various vulnerable areas, make sure you have some advocates around you, be they friends, family, or professional advocates who should National come down the chain with some hard decisions, be able to help people through the technical side of what's going on as well. I know lots of people who use the Salvation Army as advocates for them to do their WIN stuff. And, so when times get tough, not only have you got community around you, but you've got, at least a person or people around you that can help you with the day-to-day as well. It's always a good idea. But yeah, it's look, all I'd say to you, Aidan, we probably need to wrap up now and move on. But all I'd say to you, mate, is keep going, keep trying. The sun always rises tomorrow. I don't want to be too flippant. And I'm going to hold on to this little thought right now, is that most governments that get in on a promise of a massive change don't end up changing anywhere near as much as they promise, because there are checks and balances in place that are able to stop some of those things. I'm not saying that like it's going to be fine. Don't get it the wrong way, but maybe to have massive concerns and anxieties at the moment on day one, if you could temper that to sort of an objective look on the landscape and to check out what you need to check out and be aware of what you need to be aware of, if it's possible. All right, Aidan?
Yeah. Thanks for that. I mean, just talking about it gives me another perspective, because I've been through this cycle leading up to the election. I was this worried, and then we got in the negotiation talks, and I was like, Chewy, I was thinking maybe they'll pull back on being so fucking batshit, but no.
Yeah. Well, I think they're still playing the game. I think they're still playing the game of, we're Billy Big Balls here, and once life starts next year, I'm hoping that it doesn't seem as dark as it does right now, Aidan. But we'll leave it there because we've got lots of other people. Aidan, I really appreciate your call, and we're always here. Well, we're not always here, but we're here Monday to Thursday. Well, but we're always here via clips and stuff as well. I'm going to go and grab Planner Walk to say hello to. Hello, Planner Walk. Have we got you on video tonight?
Ahoy, hoy. Yes, I can.
Go on, mate.
Let me turn the video on.
If you're camera ready. Oh, you're always camera ready.
Camera ready. I've got an impression for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I already know.
You paid off all my taxes.
Straight to
Very
prison
good.
for fraud.
Yeah, very good. What's up, my friend? What's going on?
I've read of some of that 100 days plan, and by God, it doesn't look to be doing. It doesn't look to be doing anything useful for most people.
Yeah, no,
Not the
right.
plan. It's not the plan.
Yeah, because like obviously there's what you've talked about. There's the ban the use of cell phones in school.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of this seems to actually will make things worse for certain people.
Welcome to a right-wing government.
like it's going to, in the rebuild the economy and ease the cost of living section, it's got repeal the fair play agreement legislation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just okay. And how that eases the cost of living? How exactly?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. You're spot on. Making it available for businesses to pay people less and give them worse conditions. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I'm trying to think of what else there is. There's obviously the restoring 90-day trial periods.
Yep.
Here's one.
Oh,
stop.
What they said about that was that it was going to stimulate the jobs market. We're still at record low unemployment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Stop blanket speed limit reductions and start working on replacing the land transport rule. And it's like, okay, and that fixes the economy. How?
Yep.
That eases the
More
cost
debt.
of living. How?
Yep.
More debts.
Yep. I also see one of your chats that you threw into a thing earlier about talking about the haka from now on having to be in English. That's quite funny. I quite like that. I'd like to see that.
Wait, was that me? Or
yeah, that was you.
Was it? I don't remember saying that.
Yeah, I've just deleted it, but
maybe it
was a different personality.
But potentially. And here's a way that they're going to ease the cost of living. They're going to restore law and order by putting more people in prison.
And then need more beds, and then sell off the prisons to a public-private partnership to privatize them. So that's how they'll do it.
To be fair, there is a bit of sense in restoring law and order. I will be fair on them because, like, obvious crime usually comes out of worsening economic conditions. And so if they are going to worsen the economic conditions, well, obviously there's going to be more crime. So they're going to need to keep the crime rate down. So law and order is going to be very necessary.
They could also fix that by improving the economic conditions, though, couldn't they? That would be the other way.
That's crazy talk. That's socialism, Pat. You've done a socialism.
All right, Planner, anything else?
There's so much, but I don't want to. I don't think you're aiming for a 120-minute hour.
No, not tonight. We're gonna take a couple more calls and head off. But thanks for your thoughts. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you down New World.
Yeah, I haven't seen you at New World. I don't think.
I'm sure it'll happen at some stage. Cheers for your call. Appreciate it. I'm looking at names we haven't seen before. Wombat Holio. Let's go have a chat with Wombat Holio. Hello, Wombat Holio. Mic's on. Wombat Holio. There we go. Hello.
Sorry, I was just a few seconds late.
That's all right.
Just wanted to say kia ora. Thank you for the things that you guys have been doing.
Thanks, man.
No worries.
It matters. I also wanted to say if Aiden, I think the caller before, was still listening, one of the biggest things you can do is to like, share, spread the message. Not everybody can get out there and protest. I know I will be.
Yep.
But liking, sharing, spreading the message, it all helps.
I mean, being a little, I'm not trying to be flippant, but you know how National wants to cancel all the backroom workers. It's actually the backroom workers are really, really important because they help feed the front line. And we can think about that from what we're doing for the fight as well. There can be some quote unquote backroom workers that are enabling the front line to go out on the protest strip and support them that way.
Exactly. You always need organizers. You always need people to amplify the message.
Yep.
So that's definitely something that you can do without having to be out on that front line.
Yeah, for sure.
I also wanted to say on the state funding for the journalism fund, I find it really ironic and really strange that for some reason the state isn't allowed to have conditions.
Yeah. Like every other investor does. Anyone else that gives money to media has conditions. It's called a contract.
Exactly. Like you would expect that from any sort of private partnership. So why is the state not allowed to have conditions?
Yep. No.
You wouldn't want them accidentally funding something that looks really terrible.
100%. 100%. And the conditions are typically only around, what's good for society and what's agreed to, I guess, within the treaty. So it's kind of New Zealand conditions anyway. So it's just they're looking for problems where there are none, and they find it, and the problem gets amplified by a particular group, be it the taxpayers union, be it a certain right-wing platform or two, and then they buy into it. It's exactly the same as the vaccine stuff. It's exactly the same as the who stole the American election. It's exactly the same as the media in America are all bought. A group of people buy it, then you can't actually argue with them. You can't bring them around because it's become the foundation of why their side's being wronged, even if their side hasn't been wronged.
Absolutely. And I think just looking at this 100-day plan, I think we are definitely going to need people to help with protest organization, with amplification of protests, because it's going to, I'm not involved in gang life whatsoever, but that is going to be a major protest for me personally.
Yep.
Because how long until a rainbow is a gang patch?
100%. That's it.
How long until the right to assembly is the right to not protest?
Yep. No, you got it, Workholio. Wombat Holio, sorry. I like your name. Where's your name from before you head off? What's the...
So a very drunken night with a shot glass that a friend had, and the shot glass said was something about, I like to have sex like a wombat, eats roots and leaves.
Yeah.
And then obviously combined with Beavis and Butthead.
Cornholio. Cornholio.
Yes.
I am Cornholio. I have TP on my bunghole. Nah. All right. All right. Wombat Holio. Nice to talk to you. We'll talk to you next time.
You too. See ya.
Thanks, mate. See you, bye. We're going to go in and see if Daily B has come back and just say, hello, Daily B. You need to turn your mic on and you will be with us. Yep, your mic is on. Hello, Daily B.
Hi.
Yeah, we got you. What's up?
Yeah. Sorry, I think I exited just as you clicked on me.
All good. What can we do for you?
Yeah. I just wanted to see. I had a thought on I don't know if it's a positive or a negative with ACT and National kind of. I know they're just standing firm on what Winston said, but it just lines up with so many of the things that they want to do anyway. Like cutting funding, it's anti-Maori, it's mocking something Labor's done. I just think it's if it is actually beneficial to them or if it isn't. I also think it might be a bit of a distraction from the policies that they're putting in.
I think I don't think traditionally the stuff that's happening now is necessarily national. They're more centre right, but they feel further right this time around than they ever have before. But definitely for ACT, I think Winston's a useful idiot, and he's able to get through some of the stuff. I mean, you could argue the same the other way when it came to the anti-smacking law, that's something that Labor would always want to support, but they needed the Greens to have the kahunas to go and push it through. So yeah, what you're saying could be completely on point.
Yeah, I just think that Luxon's just not showing spine on it. like by not touching it. And Hipkins, in one of the their press things, he said, like, listen, we've had, you know, Labour people who have maybe spoken, you know, a bit, I don't know, and Hipkins had to address that. And I think that's true. Like, oh God, I'm blanking on the name right now because I'm like nervous. Who's their media guy, minister?
Are you talking about Willie Jackson?
Yeah, Willie Jackson.
Yeah.
Because Willie Jackson, you know, he says a lot of things, and like, I like Willie Jackson, but he often gets quite passionate about things, and he has actually had to be pulled back, you know.
Yep, 100%. All right. Hey, thanks for jumping on, Daly. We appreciate hearing from you, and thanks for coming on twice when you lost your part way through. There's 2 more people in the waiting room too. If we just do 2 more quick ones, and that'll be us for the night. So anyone else jumping in from here, we won't take you from here on intro. It'll be the last 2, and we'll go grab Paula. Hello, Paula. Turn your mic on and say hello.
Korua.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Paula.
Hey, that's a song I was named after, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Moana Maniapoto, Korua, silver, eh? It's wonderful news.
Not bad, not bad. We'll take it. Thanks for you guys.
But stay gold, boys. Stay gold. Just listening to the Discord chatters you've had, I just wanted to, it's clear there's a theme. So I just, rather than talk about all the tentacles this coalition has given us, I thought I'd get straight to what actually unites all of us on the same kaupapa, the singular kaupapa of the treaty, Te Tiriti. And its importance, and the ugly behaviour that's been going on. It's just nasty, it's just ugly, and it just doesn't belong in government, in parliament. So I actually teach it for a living. So, you know, I meet with these monsters all the time. Those ugly comments about the Littlewood document, and, you know, me too, lost soul. When you discover that people close to you are bigoted in that way. So there'll be a lot of people in New Zealand right now discovering that the nearest and dearest aren't the nice people we thought they were. We're all being let down. And what I want to talk about was that kind of ugliness and that kind of racism, bigotry and foolishness lives in a vacuum. So it gets energy when we're not actually filling that vacuum up with actual, real, meaningful, substantial conversation. And I think it's wonderful that this is the time, you know, we're all saying, let's talk about the treaty, but actually everyone's talking about the ugliness. So I just want to put the treaty back in the conversation and maybe dispel a few myths. I do it for a living, so I'm hoping to be useful. Because, I do realise that your audience is likely to be willing to have the conversation.
Well, yeah, I think that's fair, Chewy, and I also think that, as we were just talking to Aidan earlier, if we can, and I say this humbly, right? Like we're not the experts here; we're just kind of the conduit for ideas to come through us to other people. But if we can help other people for those conversations that are with us to go out and have them with others, then that would be my dream actually come true about being able to do this thing.
Absolutely. I was thinking about Lost Soul when he was talking about that conflict he was having. So. Yeah, but there's ways, and what I have learned is when somebody's coming at me with, you know, you're only 14% of the population and all that garbage, and, you know, you're a minority, New Zealanders are this, and just as a Māori, I only get called a New Zealander. I only get called one when somebody wants my vote. So, you know, now that they don't want my vote, they're giving me the other rubbish. The way I deal with it is I don't answer the questions and the facts. I do not debate their misinformation. I ignore it completely, and I only fill it up with what I know to be substantially true. What I know is, some might not say fact, but I'm a research teacher of this, so I say things confidently. So when we can talk confidently about things, it's easier to bat it off. So I just want to arm some people. That was a good word. Yes, Pat, that's a really good word. And just start with Tiriti. I don't mean to steal it, so we'll be quick. I know it's late. A lot of people talk about the two versions. The word version is an incorrect phrase to use, so it's about changing our language. Version suggests they say the same thing and they don't.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about this treaty, we should be talking about the Maori text and the English text. Both are valid documents in our constitution, but it's the Maori text we'll argue about. So there's little things like that. The interesting thing, I think this is the most important thing we all should realise, is Te Tiriti o Waitangi is not a grievance document, but that's the only place the conversation lives. It's about those settlements, about those breaches and all that. So if there's a message we can get out to our listeners out there, Treaty of Waitangi, the Treaty of Waitangi are not grievance documents. They're supposed to be documents of aspiration, and we're supposed to plan together on how to execute them.
Yep.
That is the point of them, rather than fight over ugliness. It's just ugly. That's the only word I got for it.
All right.
Now, somebody brought something else up earlier. It was about, it might have been you, Pat, or you, Tree. It was about breaches, you know. There's going to be more treaty breaches occurring. They're happening as we talk. Just to dispel the myth about full and final. And this is something I think all New Zealanders should understand. People talk about full and final settlements. That applies to both partners. So yes, the iwi partner will agree, I'm not going to take this to court again, but the Crown partner is also signing, I will not breach it again.
Yeah, right.
The moment either of, so we're supposed to stop breaching. So every policy that's falling out right now on that little policy plan, the 100-day plan, is a breach. If you are checking those already settled claims, we've got a breach. We're going back into court. An attack on reo, that's a breach of Article 2. That's already been settled in legislation. So this is a completely uneducated coalition leading our country, and I would worry about that.
Hey, really good thoughts, Paula. I think you need to call us back next time. We could do a weekly thought from Paula about the treaty, and you can educate us all.
Yes, we can all do that.
Yeah. All right. We're going to move on.
From the sounds of it, Paula, Spiderhoof wants to link up to you and do something with between the two of you. I strongly suggest that you do that. That sounds like an awesome collaboration.
You can get Spiderhoof on TikTok pretty easily, or if you can't find Spiderhoof on TikTok, Paula, just email us. Like if you don't have TikTok, bigheronews@gmail.com, and I'll connect you to Spiderhoof as well. Right, last person for tonight. I think it's Vcash. Is that right? Vcash. Mic on. Say g'day.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, there we go. Gotcha. Doing good.
It's a bit delayed for me. Vikash.
Vikash. Okay.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. You're on. What's up?
I was just going to say, Labor hasn't. I'm going to actually have to mute my YouTube here.
Yep, do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Here we go. Yeah. Okay, yeah, here we go. So what I was going to say that is Labor hasn't gone more in the party vote against. Hasn't won the party vote against. Labor hasn't done better in the party vote against National since 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And so National is the natural governing party. Like, we're going to have to fight like hell and to try and make them one term. And I think what we have to do is be careful about the fights we fight, right? And I think Labor in the last 6 years hasn't been that selective. They've kind of just spread too thin, and ultimately they don't really fix the economic side of it. Like, no one's gone, the middle class hasn't gone, the middle and working class hasn't gone a 15K, free tax-free threshold. And that's not really helped them. Like, they haven't fixed kind of underlying problems in our tax system.
Yeah, they haven't been bold. Labor hasn't been bold, especially in the last term when they had a majority. They could have pretty much, other than constitutional changes, they could have done anything they wanted. And you know what? Look what National's done. National don't have a majority. They've come in and they've just gone change. Labor was in with a majority, and I'm not saying did nothing. I don't want to be too disparaging, because there was still a lot of work done when it came to houses and building and that kind of stuff, but still dropped the ball when what they could have gotten done.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened in this election. Like, turnout's down a lot since 2020. If you go through a lot of electorates, Auckland electorates, turnouts are like way down since 2020. I think that's what did it. Like, people were just kind of just disillusioned with both parties, and ultimately a lot of them decide to stay home.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and I think that was a big thing with what we were talking about is the left vote, the left win. But there were so many left voters that were disillusioned with Labour and still in that mindset that Labour, they're the main party. They're the party of the left. There's no other option. So they're not going to win, so I won't bother.
Yeah, and I think that's a big problem we have. A lot of people think it's like America, where it's like, only two parties, and they don't know that you can split your party vote and your seat vote. Yeah.
No, it's very true.
What I would love to avoid is, and it's different because we have a different system here, but in the UK there is a generation of people that would naturally sit on the left that feel that they are ignored, that their voice doesn't matter, and that there's no way that they can knock the Tories out, and so the Tories stay. So they have a harder battle because of first past the post, but I would hate to have something like that set in. That's a rot of democracy at that point.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the Nats is if they do like a bunch of crazy shit with ACT and New Zealand First this term, they're going to be gone. Like, that's what's going to happen. But I think they're a bit smarter than that. So it's going to take a bit longer for us to, get rid of them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was talking about to Aidan as well. I mean, normally when a party comes in with like, we're going to do a massive change, we're going to do this, we're going to move over there. When push comes to shove, they don't do quite what they're saying. And so for me, I'm a little bit like, this is not a good result for New Zealand, especially for the vulnerable, but let's just wait till next year, reassess the landscape, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I think that's the crux of it, really, is that we have to kind of wait and see what they're doing. Like, the fair pay agreements, like they say, oh, we want to be better for workers, and, they scrap fair pay agreements. It's crazy what they're doing.
Yeah, no, very, very true, Vikesh. Hey, thank you for calling us. We'll be joining you.
Cheers, guys.
Joining you, and we appreciate you jumping on board and you being a part of it. Now, Chewy, let me do this. Pick a number. Now, I've actually assigned a number, not the order they came in. I've signed a number 1 to 8 for the 8 people we just spoke to, which is 8 people. Who do you want to pick a number 1 to
8? 7.
Okay, 7. And I'll prove it to you by circling it at the top. Can you see? Does it come up? Say there's a 7 beside the word lost soul. So lost soul, you got yourself a $50 voucher. BigHairyNews@gmail.com. Connect with us, and I will draw up a bit of a code for you to go on bhnshop.nz and get yourself some merch. Now, as a reminder to everybody, a couple of reminders now to wrap up the show. 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. By 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, I'll be putting this week's order in. If you're going to get any merch, I would suggest you get it by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'll give you a chance next week as well, but I'm not making any guarantees next week that it'll be to you by Christmas. So if you're going to get merch, if you've been thinking about it, now is the time to get it before Christmas. And remember the BHN gear, it's the last week you'll ever get the original BD gear. From next year onwards, it will not say OB on the back. And other than that, number 1 podcast in Swaziland, have yourself a very beardy Christmas. And also for those with power, quality feels like oppression is there. Let me also say, which I haven't done today yet, Chewy, huge thanks to our patrons. We'll bring them up. I finally fixed everything up, and we've had a new patron join us. Amber has become a coffee runner in the last
names.
last 24 hours. Amber has become a coffee runner, and actually we've just had someone sign up whilst we've been broadcasting tonight. So Darcy Lee, your name is not on the board yet, but you signed up whilst we were doing the show, or maybe just before. And a thanks to David, to Tracy, to Jake, to Fiona, to Jeremy, to Aranui, to Peter, to Nina, to Raywin. That's about it, as far as I can see, who have gotten merch either this afternoon or this evening during the show. Some other thanks as well. Thanks to Spider-Hoof for just being Spider-Hoof, and also for the $10 super chat. The National Party are advertising jobs for people to engage with members and voters and election preparedness. Who wants to take a hit in wages and infiltrate from the inside? Wonder what happened if I applied for the job. You reckon they'd do background on me?
That would be a massive pivot in the show format.
Oh, you think so? All right.
Yeah.
What about we'll go. We've done this before, haven't we? Xantra, like Xena, Xantra.
Okay, Xantra.
Ted Piggy got fired up over an article on furries in New Zealand. No, they get fired up about anything. That
Now I replied to this in the chat. This is very important.
Yep.
So they have two costumes that I know of: the debt monster and the Porky Pig costume that the Taxpayers Union use. Also, not a union. Now, the reason that they got all fired up about furries is because Jordan from the Taxpayers Union, not a union, is a furry. He definitely fucks those two costumes.
This is a comedy show, and we reserve the right to use satire in our commentary. And also, Jesse, thanks for the $5 super chat. Luxon has no control. He's meant to be the Prime Minister. Really bizarre situation the country has found itself in with three-party coalition. Yeah, that three-headed monster that Luxon was promising us would be terrible for the country before the election. And it's funny how we've kind of ended up with that, haven't we?
He's just marking time for his fucking knighthood.
He is.
That's what he wants. That's the end game. Hey, Pat, I want to leave on a couple of things. Do you want to do this first, or?
Thanks again, team,
Your show.
for voting for us in the New Zealand Podcast Awards, pulling out the silver, and we appreciate you being involved and on side of it. Are you doing a tangent now? It's time to go. Are you doing a tangent?
Yeah, I know, but I've been trying to hold it in. Man.
The numbers are decimated.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, it's their loss because the important thing's at the end. I'm the chocolate at the bottom of the trumpet.
Well, yeah, I love that so much.
So I'm going to very quickly go back to what Aidan said because I think it's really important. I've heard it echoed by a bunch of people in my circle, right? It's fucking overwhelming that we're looking at 3 years of this shambolic shit show. What the fuck do you do? And I tell you what you do. You do what you can and you do what's within your means. You cannot solve the problem of National and ACT and New Zealand First being the government right now. But you can protect the people in your community. You can protect the people in your circle. You can lift people up and you can push back against this every time you see it. Those awful conversations about the validity of Māori or the treaty, or certain segments of our community, of trans people, wherever it is, whatever it is, don't let it slide. Push back. And it can be as simple as going, why do you think that's funny? Oh, you want to talk about the treaty? Which one? This sort of thing. And you organize and you get involved in local body stuff. You get involved with community groups. You share petitions. You sign petitions. You share videos like ours and Spider-Hoof. You spark conversation. You let other people know that they are not alone. You bring them into your tribe. And in 3 years' time, we boot these cunts out. We build the army that we're going to need. And the thing is, the right wing have shown us how to do it.
Yep, 100%.
They have shown the talking points. They have projected onto us what we should do. And it's by forming true grassroots groups. It's by pushing back on all of these things that they're talking about. So that's how you do it. If it's a big meal, take small bites. We're looking at a big meal. Now,
Good
the
man.
other thing I want
Like
to say before we pull the pin, because Pat's looking at the door, is I want to leave you guys on a high. Okay? I want to leave you guys on some good news. And I'm a dummy because I didn't queue this up, and it's probably because I ditched out of the show by accident before. So my good news.
Do you want me to pad while you find something?
No, I got it now.
Because I was just going to say one thing, but you can go.
Henry Kissinger is dead.
He made it to 100, though.
I know it's a few weeks before Christmas, but this is a gift. One of the world's biggest demons has finally died. I know it was a meme every time a beloved celebrity died, and it wasn't Henry Kissinger. We sacrificed someone that should have stayed for longer. But now he is dead. And if you don't know about Henry Kissinger, there is probably no man that is pretty much directly responsible for more deaths around the world in the later half of the 20th century. And I've got that list. There you go. Imagine shuffling off this mortal coil with that on your ledger.
Isn't that?
I hope Henry Kissinger is warm, like uncomfortably.
What I was going to say,
right
isn't this the moment you wish there is an afterlife? Isn't this the exact moment?
Oh, absolutely. I wish every version of the devil is true all at the same time. Every culture's version of the bad place is true, and Henry Kissinger is experiencing it. I hope that every single soul that he has been involved with disappearing is right there poking him for the rest of the life of the universe. What a fucking monster.
Even Adam Sandler's version of the Devil and Little Nicky, where he was sticking pineapples up Hitler's ass. That'd do, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. More pineapples, faster, bigger. Henry Kissinger, rest in piss.
All right, guys. What a cheery note to end on. I hope it'll make some people smile, though. Thank you so much for being. Hey, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We had big numbers tonight, and I hadn't been looking at the chat, Chewy, after talking to all those calls. I just came back over to refresh, and it was like 500 plus comments were in the chat since the last time I looked. So that was half the show. So you guys are, and this is community. Yeah, this is the thing that we do. We hang out, we spend time together. Sometimes you guys can be with us, sometimes you can't. Remember, you can always get us on the audio podcast the next morning. Well, you can actually get it tonight because it'll be up in about 20 minutes. But the next morning, if you miss out on us, we'll jump in and jump out. Also, the clips that you can follow me on Twitter, and also that we get put up on TikTok and on YouTube as well. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, then subscribe to it, because anytime we jump in, and look, we're going to take some time off over Christmas, but I've realized there's only really 12 shows that we're going to miss. It does span out to about a 3 to 4 week period, but it's only 12 shows because we don't work public holidays. So I'm probably going to make some best ofs for those 12 shows because it's only 12. And but if anything happens and we go live, what I'm trying to say is you need to be subscribed to YouTube. You need to ring that notification bell, because if something happens in summer, there's every chance I'll flick on the camera and jump on and do a live stream here or there as well, because I'm having a staycation and doing some work around the house, ripping up carpet and painting walls and that kind of stuff. So yes, thank you for being with us. Thanks again for being involved in the podcast awards. Congratulations, Chewy, on being a part of an award-winning podcast now. And appropriate time to wear your swag hat. Good luck tomorrow. Chewy going to the dentist tomorrow. How do you feel about it? You feel okay?
Oh, I don't know.
No?
Ask me next week.
All right, I'll ask you next week. All right, team. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Appreciate you all, and we will catch you Monday night from 9 p.m. for another edition of the award-winning A Big Hairy News. Hooroo.